A single father made a promise to his dying wife: protect our daughter, choose love over grief, never give up. 3 months later, he saw a gun pointed at an innocent woman. One bullet, one choice. He could break his promise or become a hero. He kept his word. Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. The rain fell like tears from heaven that cold November evening. David Chen wiped the fog from his car window, watching his 7-year-old daughter Emma skip through puddles outside the courthouse. Her pink raincoat bounced with each jump, and despite everything they had been through, she still found joy in simple things. That was his daughter. His whole world. "Daddy, look. I can jump really far," Emma called out, her voice cutting through the heavy air. David forced a smile, though his heart carried the weight of 1,000 stones. 3 months ago, his wife Sarah had died in a car accident. 3 months of learning to braid hair with YouTube videos. 3 months of burning dinner and reading bedtime stories with a shaking voice. 3 months of being both mother and father to a little girl who still cried for her mama at night. Today had been the final custody hearing. Sarah's parents had fought hard to take Emma away, claiming a single father working 2 jobs could never provide proper care. But Judge Patricia Morrison had ruled in his favor. Emma was his. She would stay his. "Come on, sweetheart. Let's go home," David called out, stepping into the rain. That's when he saw them. Judge Patricia Morrison walked down the courthouse steps with her security guard trailing behind. She had been fair during the hearing, listening to every word David had spoken about his love for Emma. She had seen the truth in his eyes. But someone else had been watching too. A man in a black hood emerged from behind a pillar. David's blood turned to ice as he saw the gun rising, pointing directly at Judge Morrison. The world slowed down. Every raindrop hung in the air. Every breath became an eternity. "Emma, get down!" David screamed. His daughter dropped to the ground without question. She had learned to trust her father's voice completely. David didn't think. Fathers don't think when danger appears. They act. He ran toward the judge, his legs pumping, his heart exploding in his chest. The gunman's finger tightened on the trigger. Time froze. David threw himself in front of Judge Morrison just as the gun fired. The bullet meant for her tore through his shoulder, spinning him around. Pain erupted like fire through his body, but he stayed standing. He had to stay standing. Emma needed him. The security guard tackled the gunman. Police sirens wailed in the distance. Judge Morrison caught David as he stumbled, her eyes wide with shock. "You saved my life," she whispered. "My daughter." David gasped, blood soaking through his shirt. "Where's my daughter?" "Daddy." Emma ran to him, tears streaming down her face. David dropped to his knees, pulling her close with his good arm. The pain didn't matter. Nothing mattered except her. "I'm okay, baby." "Daddy's okay," he whispered into her wet hair. But he wasn't okay. The world was spinning. Darkness crept at the edges of his vision. The ambulance arrived within minutes. Paramedics rushed him onto a stretcher while Judge Morrison held Emma's hand, keeping her calm. "Is my daddy going to die?" Emma asked, her voice so small, so broken. Judge Morrison knelt down, looking into those frightened eyes. "Your daddy is the bravest man I've ever met. And brave men don't give up." David woke up in the hospital 36 hours later. His shoulder was wrapped in bandages, and tubes ran from his arm to various machines. The first thing he saw was Emma, asleep in a chair beside his bed, her small hand clutching his. "Welcome back." He turned his head. Judge Morrison sat in the corner of the room, her eyes tired but kind. "Emma?" David croaked. "She hasn't left your side," the judge said softly. "The nurses brought her meals. I stayed to make sure she was okay." Your daughter is remarkable, Mr. Chen. How long have you been here? Since they brought you in. Judge Morrison stood and walked to his bedside. The man who shot you was Richard Vance. I sentenced his brother to 20 years for armed robbery last month. He wanted revenge. David closed his eyes. Revenge, such a poisonous word. Because of you, I'm alive. Because of you, my husband still has a wife. My children still have a mother. Her voice cracked. How do I thank someone for that? You don't, David whispered. I didn't do it for thanks. I did it because. He looked at his sleeping daughter. Because I know what it's like to lose someone. I couldn't let another child lose their parent. Judge Morrison wiped her eyes. You're extraordinary, Mr. Chen. I'm just a dad. No, she said firmly. You're a hero. The news spread like wildfire. By the time David was released from the hospital 4 days later, the entire city knew his story. Reporters waited outside his small apartment. Cameras flashed as he carried Emma through the door. Mr. Chen. How does it feel to be a hero? Mr. Chen. Will you speak at the city council meeting? Mr. Chen. Is it true you're a single father? David said nothing. He closed the door and locked it, shutting out the world. Heroes belonged in movies and comic books. He was just a man trying to raise his daughter right. But the world had other plans. Letters arrived by the hundreds. People sent money, toys for Emma, cards with prayers and blessings. A local restaurant owner brought them free meals every evening for a month. The hardware store where David worked part-time gave him a raise and promised flexible hours. Yet David felt empty. The bullet wound healed, but something inside him remained broken. At night, when Emma slept, he sat by the window and thought about Sarah. She should have been here to see this. She should have been the one braiding Emma's hair and packing her lunch. Daddy, why are you crying? David turned. Emma stood in her pajamas, her stuffed rabbit dangling from one hand. I'm not crying, sweetheart. Just tired. Mommy used to say that too. Emma climbed onto his lap. But she was crying. I could tell. David's heart cracked open. Children saw everything. They understood more than adults believed. I miss Mommy, Emma whispered. Me too, baby. Every single day. But we're okay, right? You and me. David held her tight. Yeah, you and me. We're okay. 3 weeks after the shooting, Judge Morrison came to visit. She didn't arrive with cameras or reporters. She came alone, carrying a folder. I hope I'm not intruding, she said when David opened the door. Not at all. Please, come in. He ushered her inside their modest apartment. Emma was at school, giving them privacy. Judge Morrison sat on the worn couch and opened her folder. I've been thinking about what you did, Mr. Chen. About sacrifice and courage, about what it means to put others before yourself. You don't need to thank me again, David said quickly. I'm not here to thank you. She pulled out papers. I'm here to help you. David's brow furrowed. Help me? I've started a foundation. The Sarah Chen Memorial Scholarship Fund. It's for single parents pursuing education or career advancement while raising children. The first recipient will be you, if you want it. David stared at the papers, his vision blurring. You named it after my wife. She raised a man capable of sacrificing his life for a stranger. That legacy deserves to be honored. Judge Morrison's voice softened. You told me during the custody hearing that you wanted to become a licensed electrician but couldn't afford the training. This scholarship will cover the cost, plus provide childcare support while you study. Tears ran down David's face. He couldn't speak. You gave me my life back, Mr. Chen. Let me help you build yours. The scholarship changed everything. David enrolled in evening classes at the technical college. A retired teacher from the neighborhood, Mrs. Lopez, volunteered to watch Emma during his classes. The foundation covered his books, tools, and certification fees. For the first time since Sarah's death, David felt hope. Emma thrived too. She made friends at school, joined the art club, and stopped having nightmares every night. The darkness that had swallowed their lives began to lift, replaced by small moments of light. But Richard Vance's trial approached, and with it, old wounds reopened. The prosecutor needed David to testify. He would have to face the man who shot him, look into the eyes of someone consumed by hate and revenge. "I don't know if I can do this," David told Judge Morrison over coffee one afternoon. "You've already done the hardest thing imaginable," she replied. "You risked your life for a stranger. Facing him in court is just speaking the truth. What if I freeze? What if I can't find the words?" Judge Morrison reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "Then think of Emma. Think of what you're teaching her about courage and doing what's right, even when it's hard." The courtroom was packed on the day of David's testimony. Emma sat in the back row with Mrs. Lopez, her small hand clutching her stuffed rabbit. Judge Morrison sat in the gallery, no longer on the bench for this case but present to support the man who saved her life. David walked to the witness stand, his legs shaking. Richard Vance sat at the defense table, his face cold and expressionless. The prosecutor approached. "Mr. Chen, please tell the court what happened on November 15th. David took a deep breath and began. He described the rain, the courthouse steps, seeing the gun rise. He described throwing himself in front of Judge Morrison, the bullet tearing through his shoulder, the fear that he might die and leave Emma alone. "Why did you do it?" the prosecutor asked. "You didn't know Judge Morrison personally. You could have run away. Why risk your life?" David looked directly at Richard Vance. "Because revenge doesn't end pain. It just spreads it. Your brother made bad choices, and he's paying for them. But killing Judge Morrison wouldn't bring him back or change his sentence. It would just create more suffering. More children without parents, more broken families." He paused, his voice growing stronger. "I lost my wife 3 months before that day. I know what grief feels like. It's a black hole that swallows everything. But I had to choose, let grief destroy me, or let it teach me to cherish what I still have. I chose my daughter. I chose life." Silence filled the courtroom. "When I saw that gun pointing at Judge Morrison, I saw another family about to be destroyed. I saw her children losing their mother. I saw pain spreading like poison." David's eyes glistened. "I couldn't stop my wife from dying. But I could stop another death. I could stand between evil and innocence. So I did." Richard Vance looked away. The prosecutor nodded. No further questions. The jury convicted Richard Vance on all charges. He received 25 years in prison. Justice was served, but David felt no satisfaction. Prison wouldn't heal Vance's heart. Only time and choice could do that. After the trial, something unexpected happened. Richard Vance's mother contacted David through her lawyer. She wanted to meet him. David almost refused. What could she possibly say? But something in her request touched him. She was a mother, just like Sarah had been a mother. Grief connected them. They met in a small cafe, away from cameras and crowds. Mrs. Vance was an elderly woman with sad eyes and trembling hands. "I don't know why you agreed to see me," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know either," David admitted. "My son did a terrible thing. I raised him better than that. But after his brother went to prison, something broke inside him. He stopped listening. Stopped caring." Tears rolled down her wrinkled cheeks. "I lost both my boys. One to prison, one to hate." David said nothing. He just listened. But you, she continued, you lost your wife and still chose love. You could have become bitter like Richard. Instead, you became a hero. You saved a life when you could have looked away. I'm not a hero, David said quietly. I'm just a father trying to teach his daughter that love is stronger than hate. Mrs. Vance reached across the table and took his hand. Thank you for not letting my son turn you into something dark. Thank you for being an example of the man Richard could have been. They sat together in silence, two people connected by tragedy but separated by choices. When they parted, David felt lighter. Forgiveness didn't excuse evil, but it freed the forgiver from carrying poison in their heart. 6 months passed. David completed his electrician certification with top marks. The scholarship foundation helped him start his own small business. Chin Electric, honest work, fair prices, read the sign on his truck. Emma turned 8. She drew pictures of her father with angel wings, which he taped to the refrigerator. She talked about her mother now without crying, sharing happy memories instead of drowning in grief. Mommy would be proud of you, Daddy, Emma said one evening as they made dinner together. You think so? I know so. She told me before she died that you were the best man in the world. She was right. David's eyes filled with tears. I'm trying, sweetheart. Every day, I'm trying. You're doing more than trying. You're winning. 1 year after the shooting, the city held a ceremony at the courthouse. They unveiled a plaque honoring David's bravery. Courage is not the absence of fear, but action in the face of it. On this spot, David Chen risked his life to save another, reminding us all what it means to be truly human. David stood with Emma at his side, wearing his best suit. Judge Morrison spoke about his sacrifice. The mayor presented him with a medal. Cameras flashed. People applauded. But the moment David treasured most came after the ceremony, when a teenage boy approached him nervously. Mr. Chen. I'm Tyler Morrison. The judge's son. David shook his hand. Nice to meet you, Tyler. I just wanted to say, because of you, my mom was at my football games this year. She helped me with college applications. She was there when I got my driver's license. Tyler's voice cracked. She was there because you were there. Thank you for giving me more time with my mom. David pulled the boy into a hug. This was why he had taken that bullet. Not for medals or ceremonies, but for moments like this. For sons who still had mothers. For families that remained whole. That night, David sat on Emma's bed as she drifted off to sleep. Daddy, she murmured, her eyes half closed. Yes, baby. When I grow up, I want to be like you. Like me. Someone who helps people, someone brave. She yawned. Someone who loves bigger than the whole sky. David kissed her forehead. You already are, sweetheart. You already are. He turned off the light and stood in the doorway, watching his daughter sleep. The apartment was still small. The furniture was still worn. Money was still tight. But they had something money couldn't buy. They had each other. They had love. They had hope. Outside, the city lights twinkled like stars. Somewhere, Judge Morrison was tucking her children into bed. Somewhere, Mrs. Vance was praying for her sons. And here, in this small apartment, a single father watched his daughter dream. He walked to the window and looked up at the stars, imagining Sarah up there somewhere, watching over them. I kept my promise, he whispered to the night. I'm taking care of our girl. And she's taking care of me. The rain began to fall again, soft and gentle this time. Not like tears, but like a blessing. David smiled, feeling the weight that had pressed on his heart for so long finally lift. Tomorrow, he would wake up early and make Emma's favorite breakfast. He would drive her to school and kiss her goodbye. He would go to work, fixing electrical problems for people who needed help. He would come home and help with homework. He would read bedtime stories and tuck her in. Tomorrow, he would continue being what he had always been. Not a hero. Not a celebrity. Just a father. And that was enough. That was everything. 5 years later. Emma Chen stood at her middle school graduation, preparing to give the valedictorian speech. At 13, she had grown into a confident young woman with her mother's smile and her father's kind heart. David sat in the front row, his eyes already wet with pride. Judge Morrison sat beside him. They had become close friends over the years, their families joining together for holidays and birthdays. Emma approached the microphone. She looked at her father and smiled. Everyone talks about heroes, she began. We see them in movies, flying through the sky or fighting villains. But I know a real hero. He doesn't wear a cape. He doesn't have superpowers. He just loves bigger than the whole sky. She paused, emotion filling her voice. When I was 7, my mom died. The world became dark and scary. But my dad never let me stay in that darkness. He worked 2 jobs. He learned to braid hair from YouTube. He burned dinner a lot. The audience chuckled. But he never gave up on me. He never gave up on us. Emma's voice grew stronger. And one rainy day, when he saw someone in danger, he didn't hesitate. He didn't think about himself. He thought about preventing another child from losing a parent. He took a bullet meant for someone else because that's what heroes do. They stand between evil and innocence. They choose love over fear. Tears ran down David's face. My dad taught me that being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do the right thing anyway. He taught me that grief doesn't have to destroy you. It can transform you into something stronger, something better. Emma looked directly at her father. Dad, you always say you're just a father. But you're my whole world. You're my hero. And because of you, I know what kind of person I want to be. Someone who helps people, someone brave, someone who loves bigger than the whole sky. The auditorium erupted in applause. David stood, his heart bursting with pride. Emma ran down from the stage and threw herself into his arms. I love you, Daddy. I love you too, baby. More than you'll ever know. Judge Morrison watched them embrace, remembering that rainy November evening 6 years ago. One bullet point, one choice. One moment that had changed everything. But it wasn't the bullet that made David Chen a hero. It was every small choice after that. Every morning he woke up and chose love over grief. Every evening he came home exhausted but still helped with homework. Every night he tucked his daughter in and promised her she was safe. Heroes didn't need capes or superpowers. They just needed hearts willing to sacrifice, to love, to keep standing no matter how hard life knocked them down. David Chen was that kind of hero. And because of him, his daughter would be too. Later that evening, after all the guests had left and the celebration ended, David and Emma sat together on their apartment balcony. It had become their special tradition, sitting under the stars, talking about everything and nothing, just father and daughter sharing quiet moments. Dad? Emma said softly, breaking the comfortable silence. Yeah, sweetheart. Do you ever wish things were different? That mom was still here. David was quiet for a moment, choosing his words carefully. Every single day, I wish your mom was here. But I don't wish away what we've been through. Because everything we survived made us who we are. What do you mean? I mean that losing mom was the worst thing that ever happened to us. But it also taught us how strong we are. How much we can love. How we can choose hope even when everything feels hopeless. David put his arm around his daughter. Your mom's death didn't end her love. It just changed how we experience it. Emma leaned her head on his shoulder. I used to be angry at her for leaving us. That's okay. Anger is part of grief. But I'm not angry anymore. Now I understand that she didn't choose to leave. She would have stayed forever if she could. Emma's voice grew softer. And she did stay, in a way. She's in every good choice we make. Every time we help someone. Every time we choose love. David's throat tightened with emotion. His 13-year-old daughter had wisdom beyond her years. Sarah would have been so proud. You know what your mom told me the night before she died? David asked. What? She said, David, promise me something. Promise me you'll teach Emma that she can survive anything. That pain doesn't last forever. That love is the strongest force in the universe. And then she said something I'll never forget. What did she say? She said, our daughter is going to change the world someday. She just needs someone to show her how strong she is. Be that person for her. Tears rolled down Emma's cheeks. She really said that? Every word. And you know what? She was right. You're already changing the world, Emma. That speech today changed people. I saw parents crying, realizing they need to appreciate what they have. I saw kids looking at their single parents with new respect. Emma wiped her eyes. I was so nervous. My hands were shaking the whole time. Being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means being scared and doing it anyway. Just like when I saw that gun 6 years ago. I was terrified. But I acted anyway because the right thing needed to be done. Do you think about that day a lot? Sometimes, especially when it rains. David unconsciously touched his left shoulder where the scar remained. But I don't regret it. Not for 1 second. Because of that choice, Judge Morrison's kids still have their mom. Tyler got to go to college with his mom helping him pack. Her youngest daughter learned to ride a bike with her mom cheering her on. One choice created all of that. Emma was quiet for a long moment. Dad, I've been thinking about what I want to do with my life. Tell me. I want to help kids who lost parents. I want to be a counselor or social worker. Someone who can tell them, I understand what you're going through, and you're going to be okay. Because I needed that when Mom died. I needed someone who really understood. David's heart swelled with pride. That's a beautiful dream, sweetheart. Is it weird that losing Mom made me want to help other people who are hurting? Not weird at all. That's called turning pain into purpose. It's what the strongest people do. David kissed the top of her head. Your mom would be so proud of the person you're becoming. You really think so? I know so. You have her kindness, her compassion, her strength. And you have something else too, you've learned that tragedy doesn't define us. How we respond to tragedy defines us. They sat in silence for a while, watching the stars appear one by one in the darkening sky. The city sounds drifted up from below, cars honking, people laughing, life continuing in its endless cycle. Dad? Emma said again. Yeah. Thank you. For what? For not giving up. After Mom died, it would have been so easy for you to just shut down. To stop trying. But you didn't. You fought for me in court. You learned to do Mom things. You took a bullet for someone you barely knew. You went back to school. You built a business. You never stopped fighting. David felt tears building behind his eyes. You were worth fighting for, Emma. You've always been worth it. I want you to know something, Emma said, her voice serious. When I have kids someday, I'm going to tell them about their grandfather. About how he was the bravest man I ever knew. About how he taught me that love is stronger than fear, that hope is stronger than despair, that one person can make a difference. You're going to make me cry, David said, his voice breaking. Good. You always tell me it's okay to cry. That tears are just love with nowhere else to go. David laughed through his tears. I did say that, didn't I? And you were right. About everything, about how we'd be okay, about how the pain would get easier, about how Mom's love would never die. Emma turned to look at him. You kept every promise you made to her. Every single one. That was the easy part, David said. The hard part was learning to forgive myself for the days I felt like I was failing. For the burned dinners and the messy house and the times I lost my patience. But you never failed, Dad. Not once. You showed up every day. You loved me even when it was hard. That's not failing. That's succeeding at the most important job in the world. They hugged, father and daughter, two people who had walked through fire and emerged stronger. Two hearts that had been broken and healed together. I love you, Dad, Emma whispered. I love you too, baby girl. More than all the stars in the sky. And beyond? And beyond, always and forever. The next morning, David woke to the smell of pancakes. He walked into the kitchen to find Emma cooking breakfast, wearing Sarah's old apron that she had found in a closet. What's all this? David asked, smiling. I'm making you breakfast. To say thank you for everything. Emma flipped a pancake expertly. Mrs. Lopez taught me. She said every good person should know how to cook for the people they love. David sat at the table, watching his daughter move around the kitchen with confidence. When had she grown up so much? It seemed like yesterday she was 7 years old, scared and grieving, clinging to him in the hospital. Emma served him a plate of pancakes with strawberries and whipped cream, his favorite. She poured orange juice and sat across from him. This is delicious, David said after the first bite. When did you learn to cook like this? Mrs. Lopez has been teaching me for months. I wanted to surprise you. Emma smiled. You've taken care of me for 6 years. I wanted to take care of you for once. You take care of me every day, sweetheart. Just by being you. Just by being happy and healthy and kind. That's all I ever wanted. They ate breakfast together, talking about Emma's plans for high school, about the club she wanted to join, about her dreams for the future. David listened, amazed at how articulate and thoughtful his daughter had become. After breakfast, Emma pulled out a box from her room. I have something to show you. What is it? Open it. David opened the box to find dozens of letters, all addressed to him in Emma's handwriting. What are these? I've been writing you letters, Emma explained. Every time I felt grateful for something you did. Every time you made me laugh. Every time I realized how lucky I am to have you as my dad. I've been saving them for today. David's hands trembled as he picked up the first letter. It was dated 2 years ago. Dear Dad. Today you came to my school play even though you were tired from work. You sat in the front row and cheered the loudest when I came on stage. I saw you recording it on your phone so we could watch it together later. Thank you for always showing up. Thank you for always being there. I love you. Emma. David read through letter after letter, each one a small moment captured in time. Emma thanking him for helping with homework. Emma appreciating him staying up late to finish her science project. Emma noticing how hard he worked to give her a good life. By the time he finished reading, tears streamed down his face. Why did you do this? He asked, his voice thick with emotion. Because I wanted you to know that I see you, Dad. I see everything you do. I see you working long hours. I see you coming home exhausted but still making dinner. I see you checking my homework and signing permission slips and never missing a parent-teacher conference. I see you sacrificing your own happiness to make sure I'm happy. Emma took his hand. You always say you're just a dad. But you're not just anything. You're everything. You're my hero, my teacher, my friend, my whole world. And I wanted you to have something to look at when you doubt yourself. Something to remind you that you're doing an amazing job. David pulled Emma into a hug, holding her tight. This was what Sarah meant when she talked about love surviving death. This moment, this connection between father and daughter, was Sarah's love manifested. It lived on in Emma's kindness, in David's sacrifice, in the life they had built together from the ashes of tragedy. "Thank you," David whispered. "Thank you for being the best thing that ever happened to me." "No, Dad. Thank you for being my hero. My real-life superhero." They stayed like that for a long time, holding each other, crying happy tears, feeling the weight of 6 years of struggle and love and survival. When they finally pulled apart, Emma smiled. "Want to do something today? Just you and me?" "Like what?" "Let's go to Mom's favorite place. The park by the lake. We haven't been there in a while." David nodded. "Yeah. Let's do that." They spent the afternoon at the park, walking along the lake where Sarah used to take Emma when she was little. They sat on the bench where David and Sarah had their first date 15 years ago. "Mom loved this place," Emma said, looking out at the water. She did. She used to say that water reminded her that life keeps flowing, even when things feel stuck. That nothing stays the same forever. Emma leaned against her father. "Do you think she knows? About everything that happened? About you saving Judge Morrison and us being okay?" "I think she knows. And I think she's proud of both of us." As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, David felt a profound sense of peace wash over him. The promise he made to Sarah had been kept. Emma was thriving, compassionate, strong, ready to take on the world. "Ready to go home?" David asked as the stars began to appear. "Yeah," Emma said. "Let's go home." They walked back to the car together, father and daughter, two hearts beating as one. The last promise had been kept. But the story wasn't over. It was just beginning.